Hey y'all, welcome to the kitchen at the House of Yumm, where today I'm going to show you how to make a Texas sheet cake. This chocolate cake bakes in a half-size sheet pan. We're gonna use this size right here. So it's nice and big, but it's gonna bake up kind of thin. And while the cake is still warm, we're gonna pour this fudge-like icing over the top of it. And the cake is just gonna soak that up, and it's going to become just this tender, moist chocolate cake. And it is the most delicious cake ever. You guys are gonna love it. Let's do a quick rundown of the ingredients I'll be using today. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/3 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 cup of brewed coffee. You could substitute this for just 1 cup of water, 1/2 cup of buttermilk. And if you don't have buttermilk on hand, you can pour milk and just add a little bit of vinegar to it and make sour milk, and it'll work the same. 1 cup of white sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I have 2 large eggs. We're gonna use 1 cup of butter, plus a teaspoon of vanilla. So the first thing we're going to do is add our dry ingredients together. So I have my flour. I'm going to add the sugar. We're gonna add the salt and the baking soda. Make sure you get it all. Okay, and I'm just gonna whisk these together. And we'll set this aside. Now, for the next step, we're actually gonna use the stove. So follow me. Okay, so we're gonna start by melting our butter. The butter is melted, so I'm going to pour in my coffee. Again, if you would rather not use coffee, you can also substitute for water. The coffee really enhances the flavor of the chocolate, which is why I love adding coffee into this particular chocolate cake recipe. Now I need to add in my cocoa powder. This is just a natural unsweetened cocoa powder. I'm actually gonna use a whisk and just whisk this in. I want it nice and smooth. Okay, we're gonna let this come to a boil. Okay, now very carefully, we're gonna pour these hot ingredients into the dry ingredients that we already mixed, okay? A whisk is probably not the best thing. Definitely not the best thing. What kind of show are you doing here? Trying to reduce the amount of dirty dishes. Okay, so that's all mixed in. Next up is the eggs. 2 large eggs. Oops. I'm using a spoon for this. Stand by. I just changed from one spatula to another, but this one's more spoon-shaped. Next up is our 1/2 cup of buttermilk. Try to be gentle. I'm just gonna go ahead and add in our vanilla. Where's my husband when I need him? Oh, seriously? Ugh, this is the good stuff. Always have extras. I know I say a teaspoon. I never really measure my vanilla. I just go by feeling. Stir. Perfect. Okay, we're just gonna pour this right on into there. Spread it around. Makes the top nice and smooth. We're ready to bake. The oven is preheated at 350 degrees. We're gonna let this bake 27, 28 minutes. Always check it with a toothpick in the center to make sure it's all done. If you underbake it, then the center is gonna kind of dip in. Now, while the cake is baking, we're gonna prepare that fudgy icing that I was telling you about. One of the main things that we need to do is sift the powdered sugar. Because if we don't sift the powdered sugar, we're gonna end up with lumps in our icing, and we don't want lumps. 2 and 3. Getting out of hand. And the other ingredients that we'll need for our icing is a 1/2 cup of butter. I know, just go with it, okay? 4 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 1/2 cup of milk, a pinch of salt, and some vanilla. That is a chocolate sheet cake. All right, now we're gonna go back to the stovetop and we're gonna make the fudgy icing that we're gonna pour all over this cake while it's still nice and warm. Okay, so come on. Okay, so back at the stove, we're gonna go ahead and just heat this up on low and add in our butter. Let it start melting. So the butter is all melted. We're gonna go ahead and add in our cocoa powder. Whisk it together until it's nice and smooth. And then we'll whisk in our milk. I'm gonna add just a pinch of salt and pour in about a little bit of vanilla. Okay, so carefully, trying not to make too big of a mess, I'm going to add in my powdered sugar. I'm just gonna stir this all up. And it's just like a real fudge-like sauce. Okay, we have our fudge icing. Our cake is still warm, the icing is still warm, and we're just gonna drizzle this all over the top. Ready? All my spatulas are dirty, imagine that. Okay, I'm just gonna spread this out. And this is the point where if you wanted, you could add some crushed up pecans on the top, which is a very classic thing to do. Okay, so the cake has been sitting and cooling for a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and dig in. And it's a Texas sheet cake, so you gotta do big slices. This is the perfect chocolate cake for feeding a crowd or a larger family. The cake does bake up fairly thin, but it packs a large chocolate flavor, plus that fudgy icing that is warm and poured over the warm cake creates a moist tenderness to the cake itself. This is one of those cake recipes that you want to save and always have on hand. It is so tender, so chocolatey, and that fudgy frosting or icing just soaked right into the cake. This is a definite winner.